So I say, in the name of the Creator, revealed all and known by many names, in the name of our ancestors whose legacy we must all bear, I bear witness as an African man, and we bear witness as African people, that as our beginning was great and good, so shall our development to eternity be. If you dare, you speak truth, you do justice, and you walk into the ways of righteousness. In the name of the African people, the first people to populate this world, in the name of the Hazaki from Tanzania, in the name of the Twa, from Congo, in the name of the Australopithecines and Homo sapiens, the African people that followed the Nile and built the civilizations of Napata, of Taseti, of Tameri, in the name of the Ethiopian King of Kings that moved from Africa to help in the civilization of the Maya, of the Inca, in the name of contemporary Africans, in the name of Sankara, in the name of Patrice Lumumba, in the name of Dipper Prosa, in the name of Louis Gama, in the name of Zumbi of Bahia and Paramaris, in the name of Shaka, in the name of Nandi, in the name of Chetswayo Kampani Zulu, a black brother who defeated the British at the Battle of Insadwana, in the name of Murgeta, in the name of the Abun and the Africans that participated in the Battle of Ador. Shall pass on, let him that is worthy be worthy still, let him that is righteous be righteous still. Behold, I come quickly, my reward is with me, to give unto every man and every woman for and according to his reward should be. And I hope that at the end of this lecture, if you are throwing such meaning and pens and everything you have, then I shall know that you have got my point. But if you stand and clap, then I shall know that you probably did not understand what I said. I was given a timely subject of free your mind, the Pan-Africanism and policing in the 21st century. Now, I am sure that most of you have heard the concept or the expression Pan-Africanism. Some of you come from Pan-Africanist family. But I'll give you what I consider Pan-African definition of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism, Pan means all of Africa. And it means now about 1.2 billion people in the African continent, 39 million African people in America, 130 million African people in Brazil, about 11 million African people in the Caribbean. We have got African people in India, in Guam, the Manco of Andaman Island. We have got African people in Australia, African people in Papua New Guinea. So we say all of Africa, Pan-Africa. And it refers to quality of thought and practice. A quality of thought and practice rooted in the best image, best interest, and best action of African people. A quality of thought and practice that is rooted in the best image, best action of African people. Now, that image of African people is important to us, Pan-Africanists. And you as heads of police or heads of institutions, you should pay particular attention. Blackmail you. In English, you say blackmail you. If I want to put you on a bad list in English, I blacklist you. In what book? In a black book. If it's a bad trading day in English, we say what? It's a black day. If it's an illegal market in English, we say what? We say it's a black market. If it's a bad spot on the road, we say it's a black spot. Imagine if you stood there and say, oh, this is a Jewish market, meaning that it's a negative market. You will be accused of racism. You'll be accused of anti-Semitism. But we wear black for funerals and white for weddings. And when they show you the image of God, what color is God? God is white. And when they show you the image of the devil, who is the devil? The black person. So if you are a policeman hunting for the devil, if you are a Christian hunting for the devil, you will hunt black people. That is how it has been. It has been institutionalized even in games. Most of you know a game we call billiard pool. Sometimes it's called snooker. On snooker you have all these balls, and the balls represent like genetic matter or genetic material, reproductive organs, balls. You have the red ball representing the Native Americans. The Arapaho, Arawak, the Namaho, the Cheyenne, the Brunchi, the Kokomo Sioux, most of whom have been eliminated. And then you have the yellow ball representing black people, yellow people. from Asia. You have the white ball representing white people, and the black ball representing black people, played on the green. To win, what happens? The white ball knocks all the other balls under the table. That's how you win in snooker. So it means when you are playing on this green, what will happen in the end? It will be life expectancy. You know life expectancy, where they say we expect you to die at 45? And then in Pan-Africanism we ask the question, precisely what will you do if I don't die? Will you bring that into existence? So, I have 4 cardinal points that I wanted to share with you. I have a 2-part presentation, so I'll be speaking very fast so that I can pack as much information in my presentation. Number 1, when Europeans colonized the world, they also colonized the information about the world. So part of what we receive as our information is part of the colonized information. I noticed when the president was giving his speech, he mentioned that if you pick the map of the world, Uganda is a small dot. Yes, because there are 2 maps. There's what they call a Mercator projection map. The Mercator projection map shows countries where European people live or white people live bigger than the actual size. For example, Greenland is shown bigger than South America on the normal map you have in your offices. And yet in reality, Greenland is 0.7 square miles, and South America is 6.7 million square miles. But Greenland is still shown bigger. Europe is on Mercator projection map is shown almost at the same size as Africa. Now, you know, Congo alone is the size of Europe. Congo alone is the size of Europe. But you cannot even tell simply by looking at the map of the world to know, because it has been skewed to create what we call illusions of grandeur. You look at it and you think, oh my God, this is big. Imagine if you are invading Europe, if you are invading Europe, and you are a general planning in your war room, and you are thinking, oh God, a country almost the size of Africa, how would I invade it? You know, but Uganda is almost the same size as England. Congo is bigger than Western Europe, but you cannot tell. That's why the United Nations in 1976 came up with another map, which they call the Peters projection map. Now, that Peters projection, courtesy of the German cartographer Arnold Peters, gives us the countries of the world in proportion to their size. So I hope that you will be looking for that map, the Arnold Peters map. It's called the Peters projection map. It is the only map that is approved by the United Nations for use. So that is the first, that when the world is colonized, the information is colonized. So that what you and I receive is part of the colonized information. And what does that information tell us? It tells us that we as black people created no civilization. We swung from tree to tree like monkeys until somebody else came to bring us our civilization or to bring us development. So that has impacted on the mindset of an African person. This African person doesn't think that he can really create, that he can initiate. You know, we have created academics who just echo and repeat something that is repeated elsewhere or that is taught elsewhere. We have bought into expressions that don't mean a lot to us. For example, if we say international, you know, when we say international, it automatically means European. If Belgium and France get together, that's an international agreement. But let Rwanda and Congo sign the agreement, and who would say it's an international agreement? We are bought into that. We expect that an international agreement is something that Europeans are involved in. Most of these expressions, global village, when they say global village, what village is that? A global village when there is a war in Morocco, stopping African people going to Europe. A global village when there are patrols in the Mediterranean, facing people, stopping people going to Europe. How can it be a village and I'm not allowed in? You tell me. It's a village. It is global. It belongs to us, except you need a visa. You have to queue outside the American embassy or British embassy and pay money which is not refundable, and you won't even get a visa even in the end. That is not a village. But you see, these are expressions that are built in so that you become subservient to most of these ideologies. So, what is the true story? The true story is that the first people to populate the world were us. It was African people. We populated the world from 5.5 million years to 20,000 years ago. We were here alone in Africa. Humanity passed through 6 stages. The first stage is known as the Australopithecine. The first Australopithecine from Ethiopian Kenya, Australopithecus ramidus. You have in Chad, Chadensis from 7 million years ago. When the world was giving rise to humanity, it was Africa that saw the age of the Great Age. It was Africa that saw, the mutation of Australopithecines. It was Africa that sees the Homo habilis, which is in the museum in Kenya, and it is Africa that gives us the upright man, discovered by Kihura Nkuba in a place called Nariakatombi near Lake Turkana. At that time, we were alone. We are not the first people or the chosen people, because in the beginning there was nothing to choose from. We were simply the ordinary people. We were the ordinary people in China. We were the ordinary people in Europe. The first people to populate Europe were black people known as Bromordi. Bromordi populated Europe 40,000 years up to 20,000 years, when during the glaciation period that led to the mutation of the African Bromordi to the European Cro-Magnon. To understand this, you've got to understand how important and how significant this is. Because you might say, okay, so what? You are the first people to populate Europe, but you know what? In 1912, Europeans in England, anxious at not having ancient roots, they took a fossil in a place called Surrey in Sussex in England and buried it in the ground and discovered it. They call it the Piltdown man. Piltdown. Now, sorry, I carry some books because I might talk about this and you think it's a hoax, huh? This is a book called Unraveling the Piltdown. 1912, picture 1912, a priest Pierre de Chardin, a lawyer, Arthur Woodward, who was knighted by the Queen for the discovery in 1925. They discover what they considered the original Homo sapien that would be older than the Homo sapien from Africa, from Kenya, from Omo Valley in Ethiopia and Kenya. Now, from 1912 to 1949, when a white scholar who happened to be Jewish named Oakley took the amount took this fossil and tested the amount of chromium to see whether it matched to that of the lower jaw. And he found that the top part was that of the modern human, and the lower jaw was that of an orangutan, which has been carefully put together to mislead the scientific world of the monogenetic origin of Africa. Oakley, in disproving the hoax of the Piltdown, laid to rest any other theory of the existence of any other people other than black people in Europe before the African Bromordi. Now, I'm holding here something called the oldest book in the world. The oldest book in the world, its title is The Teaching of Ptahhotep. It is from ancient Egypt, 2650 BC, from a fellow called Senefru. Fortunately, it is dedicated to a man called Kagame. And I know there's an African country with a good president called Kagame. So you are police chief. We, Pan-Africanists and historians, we are also investigators. We investigate crimes which have been committed by authors and writers and experts. So we become detectives, and the first culprit is normally the author. So in this book, which I'm holding in my hand, is the oldest book in the world. The oldest book in the world dedicated to a fellow called Kagame, and it was in written form, about 4,000 years ago. But here is another book. This is the first semblance of European literary intelligence. It is just closed. It is the Iliad by Homer. Homer wrote about 680 BC. BC question mark, because the Greeks weren't really writing a lot. But this is the oldest script from Europe, and I'm holding the second one, also from Europe, from Greece, by a man called Herodotus. Herodotus is called in Europe the father of history. But even the Iliad deals with the battle between the Trojans, who are commanded by Hector, and the Achilleans, who are commanded by what many consider to be a black person known as Agamemnon, who was also father in real Agamemnon, king of men. On page 34 of this book, the oldest script from Europe, Greek gods who sat on Mount Olympus, led by Zeus, who had stolen the godship from his father Kronos, and they sat there quarreling and cheating each other, the gods. But the gods on page 34 of the oldest script from Europe say, we go to Africa every month for 14, 13 days to join the wiser Ethiopians at the banquet, wiser Ethiopians. So the Greek gods would come from Greece, they would come to Africa to sit on what was called the Table of the Sun, 360 miles long, where the Ethiopians put food for everybody to come and eat, and the judges would be adjudicating on what happens to this food. It was not the famine, because there was no famine in Africa until 1884. Until the Berlin Conference, no record of famine. There was no jail, nobody ever went to one. But so, here you are, you have the Iliad. And in this book, also the oldest script. And what I'm saying to you is that even when Europe writes, at the time it writes, the people who are in it are us African people. So when you dress in your ceremonial uniform and look wonderful, don't think that this has not been done before by African people. No. There were 4 black emperors of Rome. If you visit London, go into the British Museum Roman section. At the entrance to the British Museum Roman section, there are 2 African emperors of Rome. Septimus Severus, governor of England and emperor of Rome, and his son Caracalla. Caracalla, you can see the name from here. African emperors of Rome. Septimus Severus became an emperor of Rome at the time when another great African immortal known as Augustine of Hippo, who spent most of his time in bars, but when he didn't, he wrote very good philosophy for the Catholic Church, because he is the one who writes the canon for the Catholic Church. Augustine of Hippo, another African who was Pope St. Victor, introduces Latin as the official language. But there was another emperor of Rome called Pausanias, the black, Pausanias leader. Now, inside the British Museum, at the entrance, that's why you see the African Empress of Rome. Emperor of Rome. Now, at the time, what was called ancient Egypt extended up to this lake. I had the vice president talk about when you are in Uganda, that when you are in Uganda, I mentioned some of the attributes of Uganda, but this is UNESCO's book, volume 2 of UNESCO, which rewrote the history of Africa after 1974, when a Senegalese scholar named Cheikh Anta Diop, when UNESCO brought all the scholars of the world together to argue what color were the ancient Egyptians and what were the first people to populate the world. And if you read UNESCO proceedings, it said the only 2 people who came prepared for the conference were Teofilo Obiang from Congo and Cheikh Anta Diop, who presented evidence that was hard to list. As a result of that, UNESCO rewrote the history of Africa. And this is one of the books, the abridged version, the General History of Africa, volume 2. And inside volume 2, chapter 1, it says, as a result of the work of Professor Like and other subsequent work, it leads us to conclude that more than 150,000 years ago, beings morphologically identical with the man of today were living in the area of the Great Lakes, at the foothills of the mountains of the moon, at the source of the Nile, and nowhere else. In UNESCO, United Nations, this is the UN, it says, case closed. Humanity was born here, at the foothills of the mountains of the moon, at the source of the Nile. So what I am asking is, I told you we are all investigators, is why don't we have a shrine of humanity? So that we would be telling people, go first man was my grandfather, lived around that area, and he looked like me. Now, after UNESCO, scientists stand up and say, okay, we know we have seen fossils, we know, but can we use scientific method? So in 1984, Emory University, Rebecca Khan, and Stone King, they took the embryos of 400 women, ethnic women from all around the world. And they were looking for what they call mitochondrial DNA. You know, when a man meets with a woman, you know, when they have, in Europe they say when they have sex, in Africa we don't say sex, we say spiritual congress. You know, when a man has a spiritual congress with a woman, you exchange genes, and you have what they call nuclear DNA, and you have, you know, a man contributes almost the same as the woman, you know, and it sits on your chromosome. But the woman, our women being wiser than most of us, you know, because the word woman means what? Womb of a man. Woman. You know, so it means you come from a woman. So she has a gene that she passes through to the child without going through the filtration process. That is called the mitochondrial DNA. So they were looking at the mitochondrial DNA to find out who is the mother of us all. And if you pick Newsweek of 11th May 1987, you will see a picture of a black man and a black woman holding an apple, and it is entitled The African Eve. And they proved by scientific method that according to molecular biology, the first woman to populate the world, the African Eve, was from where you are standing on this holy ground in Uganda, or a country that the British called Uganda in 1894. Now, other scientists said, okay, maybe the mother of us all could have been a woman, but the father surely was European or some other race. So the IBM, together with National Geographic, they now looked at what they call the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome is also where the man says, okay, you have given the child a whatever, and when the woman is asleep, passes on the Y chromosome in the middle of the night. We don't know what happened there. But they were looking at the Y chromosome, and they traced, when you do a paternal test, the paternal test looks at the Y chromosome, and they traced the father of us all, known as scientific Adam, to people called Hazabe in Tanzania. Is that Tanzanians in the home? Yes. They traced it to your home. And they said that the language of the Hazabe is the most rich with thousands of characters. Because you know Africa in language. One African even who doesn't speak good language has more words in their mind than the Random House dictionary. So if you look at the Tanzanian, you're looking at Adam, at the scientific Adam. And it was from there that humanity rose to populate the rest of the world. So I ask you now, you have been here longer. If mankind learns how to walk upright, you walk upright. That is why we have Naria Katome, the Turkana boy, discovered by Kihura Nkuba 1.5 million years ago. It is in the Nairobi Museum. Do you have people from Kenya here? Yes. Kenya, do you have Kenya? Yes. You are the first person to walk upright. You know what it means before? Humanity was struggling like this. But you walked, and you passed on those genes of walking upright to the whole of humanity. And Ethiopia, do we have Ethiopia? Ethiopia in the audience? Now you know Dinkanesh. When the first discovery of the Australopithecus 5 million years ago, that's how far we could go, when it was discovered by this guy and Donald Johansson, a song called Lucy was playing at the discovery took place. So they called the first human Lucy. Naturally, the Ethiopians in ancient times, in this book, they don't say Ethiopians, no. They say the Ethiopians of thieves, the tallest, the wisest, the most just of all men. But that was not only referring only to Ethiopia, no. Ethiopia went as far as South Africa. It covered present-day Congo up to Nigeria. West of around Nigeria and present-day Chad was called Ethiopia Interior. What we call the Atlantic Ocean up to the 18th century was called the Ethiopian Ocean. You understand this? And this is in this book. I bring this book so you don't say, maybe you are making it up. I have ancient maps in this book. Ethiopia. So when they refer to Ethiopia in Herodotus, the father of history in Europe, he says the Ethiopians of thieves, the tallest, the wisest, the most just of all men. The tallest, the wisest, the most just of all men. Which means what? It means nobody can teach with you, Ethiopians, to teach you justice. Nobody can teach you wisdom. You were doing this long before the first European wore shoe or lived in a house that had a window. 5 million years ago. So you represent the total collective experience. You built what was called in ancient time the principles of Ma'at, 10 principles of Ma'at. And these principles were, number 1 was control of thought, that your thought must inform your actions. Number 2, control of action. You could not take any action unless it was informed by thought. Number 3 was steadfastness of purpose. What is affecting us as African people now is we are not focusing. We start one thing today, tomorrow we are doing something else. But that is because we have forgotten our principles. Principle number 4 was control of thought. Number 2 was control of action. Number 3 was steadfastness of purpose. Number 4 was commitment to higher ideas. Higher ideas. In Africa, the higher idea is what? Look at what Jomo Kenyatta gives us in facing Mount Kenya. In Kenya, among the Kikuyu, when you kill somebody, they didn't come to arrest you, no. They didn't kill you, no. Because if I kill you and they kill me, then the Kikuyu nation has lost 2 people. They said, no, you will come now and be a son to this man whom you have robbed of his son. That is what we call high culture. High culture as opposed to low culture. That is the development. So when you're looking at African people, particularly around the Nile Valley, where this organization, IAPCO, was born, you have to look at high culture and low culture. Why would Uganda, a nation with less resources, welcome more refugees than nations that have more resources? Because of high culture. Because in Africa, you don't have to ring somebody to say, I'm coming to come. You show up at the door. I lived in England for 16 years, in America for 4 years. My wife comes from the Caribbean. But when you are in England, every door has got a small hole. So a person comes, you know, they can put one eye to see. And then they take a retrograde step backwards like they are not in the house. We don't have that. We don't close our houses. In your home, because the whole of Africa, we have the same practice. You are told that we are divided. You are told that no, we all welcome strangers in Africa. We welcome strangers. In fact, you don't even ask a stranger his name until you have fed him. This is opposite to what they call xenophobia in Europe. In Africa, we respect our elders. We don't send our elders at age 6 to some home where they will sit eating eggs and trying to look at television. And you ask, where is your father? And say, I don't know, in some home somewhere, I don't know. How can you not know your father? How can you not know your mother? So that's where we get in Africa the expression of I am my brother's keeper. So in number 5 of the principles of spiritual growth was evidence of having a mission in life. Evidence of having a mission in life. I was really enlightened and happy to hear the president's speech today. He says, don't focus only on fighting crime. Why is the criminal on that table? He didn't exist in Africa. We have no jails in Africa. Nobody ever went to one. We have no refugees in Africa. We failed ourselves. Why are you focusing? Focus on why this person becomes a criminal. Go and build a factory and give him a job, and then see if you come and steal a television. Because there is a law against stealing, but it is superseded by another law of self-preservation. You can't tell a person who has spent 3 days not to steal when he's in a huge supermarket and he's hungry. You'll have a hard time even when you have guns. So the president was saying, build factories, build your own clothes. suggesting or advising that to go ahead and prosper and bring that prosperity and wealth. Because you know, in Africa, I'm just getting started. Now, you know, in Africa, we have the military. The military is the control of force. Politics is the control of power. But African people have been struggling with power because we don't handle power from our point of view. We handle power from somebody's point of view. We handle power from the UN that teaches us about elections and democracy. And then you say to yourself, what is democracy in the UN? You have 5 permanent members. Who made them permanent? We didn't vote that they become permanent. You know? It's not. We handle power from the point of view of Britain. Britain teaches us, ruled Uganda for over 70 years, held absolutely no election. For 70 years, not a single election was held. They held one when they were leaving in a hurry. They did the same in Kenya. Now that you are gone, you want us to hold election. Huh? How come you didn't do it when you were here? But in Britain, I told you I lived in England. In Britain, the government is called Her Majesty's government. Her Majesty. Now, this Her Majesty has been in power for over 60-something years. No election. If she passes on, the throne will not her son. Now, why are you bothered if my president or Kenyan president also looks at his son and grooms him for leadership? You groom your son for leadership. You don't want me to groom one for leadership. You want to tell me there's some form of corruption there. You know? Or look at the 1 billion. You know, in most of your countries, you must have challenges in the church. You know, the church saying, you know, the bishop stands up and he says, we must have elections, we must have this. Yeah, the Catholic Church, they have election once. When the Pope becomes the Pope, no other election are going to be here. It's over, it's gets closed. So, how are you now going to stand up as a cardinal of Lagos to say we need to have elections? You first campaign in your own institution, and then we shall also follow a good practice. But now that I have, I'm being told that I have less time. Obviously, as I said, sometimes you may have to invite me and give me enough time. But let me quite quickly say that in the 21st century, I had a lot to share. But in the distance of time, and I want to have some discipline, I don't want to be kicked off the stage. In the 21st century, one of the things that we have to do as African people, as African police, as African leaders, is know how to handle power. You cannot handle power the way someone else who colonized you handles power. It will not work. And that's why it has not worked for us. Because every nation has an interest. Every nation has an interest. When they are telling you do this, you don't know whether they are doing it out of altruism. No. It is not out of goodwill that the people come to help. No. It was not because nations want peace that they go and invade other countries and cause war and cause destruction. No. So we as African people must think for ourselves, seek for ourselves, and work with the strength of our own person. It is not enough to say, this so and so has said no. Number 2, as the police, have your own African expert. We have in Pan-Africanism this concept. You don't speak an African language, you are not an African expert. You don't share African culture, you have no culture affinity, you are not an expert. How many of you can go now and compete to be a police chief in Germany? How many of you? Can you do that? Can you manage? Do you think Russia will invite you when they advertise for a police chief and become whatever? So, when you hear, if you are not an African affinity, African culture affinity, African history, you share the same commonality, then your expertise is good, probably relevant, but it is not what we need right now. Right now, we need our own expertise. We need to inform ourselves from our own experience. Now, third, don't assume that it is not proper, then let us have our own proper definition. You had how are you saying, international expert consultancy. Let's have our own. Define the word for yourself. We define the word for ourselves other than relying on definitions of other people. Now, also just know this. From what I have seen and I have peered at the cloud of history, power is for keeping. Power is for keeping. If you don't want to keep power, give it to somebody who needs it and stop wasting our time. Power is for keeping. If you don't want power, give it to somebody who needs it. Stand up and say, you know what? But when you have the power, exercise it and let the chips fall where they may. You understand what I'm saying? When you have power, exercise it. I'm talking to those above so that those below can also hear. Now, most of our nations quite quickly have bought into religious ideology. Most of us Christians, Muslims. But for Christians, let me tell you this. There is no non-Africans in the Bible until towards the end. The first 5 books of the Bible are written by a black man called Moses, who was born here in Mesu. That's why the Bible says. Yes! He was born discovered in the Nile, in the basket. The Masoma has a basket. We have a Nile in Uganda. And of course, we know that ancient Egypt extended up to this lake called Nile Valley. We call it Victoria now, but that is debatable. The lake is Nile Valley or Nyanza. That is where ancient Egypt stopped. And according to Albert Churchwood in this book, the souls of the ancient Egyptian gods and Mexican gods would come to rest in this lake called Lake Nile Valley. So, while the vice president was saying this to Uganda, you need to sit in the yacht or in the boat or in the canoe and explore the Victoria or explore the Nile Valley. You need to go to the source of the Nile, because that is where humanity, came from. And you need to inform yourself. You need to inform yourself of our story. What we are talking about now is our story, not his story. His story is the white man's side of the story. We need our own story. Our story is the story that I attempted to show you and to give you in this short time. Courtesy of the Ugandan police, my full lecture is in this book, a color version. And I'm going to ask somebody, the books are there to circulate my lecture. I still have a few minutes. Okay, I'm told the time I don't know they're in that book. So each one is going to get a copy. I have, let me get mine. But I thank you very much. May you live forever. May your children increase. May your wealth multiply. And may you do for yourself what other races have done for themselves. I thank you very much.